Greetings in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I am Andre, and we're gathered here today to talk about the Confederation of Planets material. So, I guess we'll start here. So, you're recommending we remove apps from our phones. Gotcha. That was illuminating, thank you. You described how these pathways between the seeming individual and channeled source, um, illusory though they may be. Here, Benny, could you mute over there?
Yeah.
It's a little loud. Okay. So, all things ultimately are created not just through individual personal biographical experiences and knowledge, but through the collective as well, and how that collective landscape has features in place during the 1950s within which the Detroit Group began its operation that allowed you to speak, rather that allowed you to transmit your frequency, and allowed those instruments to receive it. At least this was one key part. So when I consider our individual and collective landscape, now particularly those at LL Research, who are inheritors of now over 4 decades of conscious channeling and who are on the other side of the raw contact, I see a whole universe now that's been made conscious, that has been read and studied and contemplated over and over, and has become internalized and become a part of the self. Could you discuss the strength weakness of this landscape that currently constitutes our individual and collective selves? Kuo. I'm Kuo. And I'm aware of your query, my brother. There is indeed. Or did someone else want to read? Okay. There is indeed, as we understand.
Where's Robert?
Yeah. Okay. What you call double-edged aspect of this dynamic in what you call as channels who are attempting to serve, having come to this service through a very deliberate and informed body of information, that this process has created within you certain pathways, as we have referenced them, that restrict your ability and refine your cognition in certain ways that are both beneficial in receiving information through these pathways, but because there is such a long lineage and solidified journey of these pathways, that it can be more difficult to broaden them and expand them to receive information that might be more novel or even completely outside of those aspects contained within the information that you have studied so thoroughly. There is another complicating factor involving in this dynamic that you, as individual seekers, have taken it upon yourselves to study this information so thoroughly, to contemplate and to apply it to your own lives. You each have very individual and idiosyncratic takes or perspectives on what this information really means and how it is relevant to you as a seeker. And this relevance then informs the pathways through which we are able to offer new information. This might be illuminating and helpful in the process of coming to understand how you can massage and make these pathways more malleable, and contemplating how you as individuals have related to this information in your very thorough studies, and how you have applied it to your own life, and to attempt to release these preconceived notions of the value of this information. For it is not that the value that you place upon it is harmful or distorted necessarily, but it does restrict these pathways in a very particular way. Is there further query, my brother? All right. Did we want to discuss that?
Yeah. What at the beginning there, he said something about something that was created to restrict our pathways and our understanding. What is? Would he be? They be referring to the manipulation of our DNA?
No. Well, I don't. I think that they're saying that basically the LL group has the body of information, because Gary and Austin joined in like the 90s when there was already 40 years of this channeling, and so they're saying that they're kind of biased, and how do they go beyond their bias, kind of thing. I think that's what they're talking about.
Well, then they say that there's everybody has their own different perspectives, and so they can when they're channeling, everybody has their own perspective, so they can actually maybe introduce new material or in different ways. I mean, that's what I got out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I got something similar. That basically, I'm taking the raw material and holding on to what we learn from it too much restricts how much they can tell us.
Right, because these guys are already biased because they've heard it all, so they went in with this preconceived ideas, but they all have their own perceptions and what they know of just general stuff and how they, you know, maybe science or whatever. Um, and when they channel, maybe that entity can offer more information according to their perspectives or how they understand. I don't know. That's just how I see it.
It's very odd channeling. Yeah, I mean, like when you talk about the pathways, I was taking it from kind of like, like neural pathways. Like, if they're going to channel
Mm-hmm.
through us, then they're going to have to kind of like send. Bene? I'm not sure Bene's take on it was the same as mine. Uh, but I feel like the pathways that they're talking about are kind of like neural pathways. They're things that you build up in your brain, yeah, that hold all of your thoughts or your biases or the things you've learned, your experiences and stuff, yeah?
Right.
So that they can use those pathways in order to deliver their message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he was talking kind of the pathways that they've already built up from the raw material and studying it so much and having their own views on it means that they have set pathways, like neural, like step-by-step pathway of information that
Mm-hmm.
The channeling can then utilize to deliver information. But where they're so stuck in what they know, they think they know about the raw material, that delivering new, novel
They might.
information that they haven't heard before actually becomes
Right.
difficult because they don't have neural pathways in order to kind of channel that information through in a way that they can understand. Is that
So
kind
they're
of what
rigid.
people like?
They're kind of maybe rigid in their thinking, or I
Well,
don't know.
that they
Yeah,
could be,
like
and they've got to release their preconceptions.
Right.
that's it. Like because those pathways are so set in their head, it's
Mm-hmm.
like they can't suggest anything different, mess up because of the understanding that they think they have, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then we can trust a single thing we know.
I don't know.
I don't know. That
It's
just blows my mind. Like what?
it's
So now we've just
it's
got
all
to forget everything we learned from material and start from scratch. I'm not getting this quote, man. Like, sort me out here. What's going on?
Yeah. Well,
cool.
all right. Did we want to move on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Any reading volunteers, or I can continue.
I just gotta get really close.
Okay, I can read the question and then you can read the quo because it's longer.
Okay.
Okay, maybe one moment, please. I'll shift direction a little bit so the quality and precision.
It hasn't come up on my screen. The writing.
Can you
It's
see it,
just black
Amanda?
screen.
Did it appear
I
yours?
can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The that came through
Oh,
the
sorry.
during the raw contact increased dramatically because the instrument had been put into what we call the trance state in order to channel a 6th density source. Is it possible to achieve this trance state to channel a positively oriented 4th or 5th density source? And if so, is it any safer or at the hazards the same? All right.
I am cool. And I'm aware of the query, my brother. We find that some complication in addressing this query, where there are limitations imposed by what we would call the law of confusion, in that we understand that the way that we answer this query will inform your pursuits upon your spiritual path in a meaningful way, beyond that which we are comfortable sharing through the boundaries of free will. We can say that the act of what you call trance channeling is a skill that can be learned, and that there are teachers within your vicinity, perhaps not that you are aware of, but are that are near connection to you, that you could learn from if you desire to understand more about this different form of channeling. And we may also say that this act of what has been
What?
called conscious, I
Mhm.
got it, called conscious channeling does help build a foundation and a prerequisite to the act of trance channeling in the sense that though it is not mechanically the same in the metaphysical realms, That will and faith and surrender and the willingness to open oneself to something outside of the self greatly inform the ability to engage in the act of trance channeling. Whether this is possible or safer than the circumstance that you have described in the history of our contact with your group, we cannot speak further. Okay, we have to go. Okay, is there a final query for this instrument is
At this time.
at this time?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So it seems basically they want to know if they can do the trans channeling any safer. And Kuo's like, we can't answer that, but there's people that know how to do trans channeling in your area, and it's easier if you know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Or you,
something
or
that
you can read, or you can read a book called Da Ben. You know, it's called channeling something or other. Orrin and Dobbin channeling book. It's quite informative.
Well, trans channeling. I don't know if it's a trans channeling book. Because trans channeling is different than conscious channeling.
It is. Oh yeah, you're right. It's not. It's not. It's different. I read the book. It is different. Yeah.
Ashia Dean or whatever her name is, she says that channeling is actually really bad because kind of the actual resonance causes damage to the DNA of people who channel. So she says that, like, you know, it's a sketchy thing. I personally don't believe a lot of the stuff she says, to be fair. But you know, if there's dangers involved in channeling, you know, maybe there's more to it than, you know, because Quo couldn't really answer that, could he? He said, you know, like the law of confusion, we'd be giving away too much if we said that this is okay. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the law of confusion is that they don't want to be telling anyone what to do or what not to do. That's what that's about.
Yeah, but it's more. Yeah,
You have
I
to make
agree.
your
But it's also
choice.
not giving away stuff we don't know yet. You know, like they
some
can't give
ways.
away things the human race hasn't discovered. You know.
Well, they
think-
did
I
though. They do give new information.
Well, yeah. Why would they continue channeling if there was no new information? I mean, what's the sense of it then? You know, if somebody's going to be put, say, in a physical danger or whatever, if you're doing trans channeling, why would you do it if you're not getting any more new information? You know, updating or, you know, new stuff that they didn't bring through with the raw content.
I would argue
Carla,
that. I would argue that you don't get anything like a huge amount more than you get in Ra. It's just Ra's written in such a way that it's a fucking it's so much to unpack.
Can
there's a lot to
I
unpack.
put my input on that?
Breaks everything down into lovely, lovely, lovely stories and like explanations. But I wouldn't say it's anything new.
Go ahead, Fred.
I think a lot of times you're going to see people get, because I've actually been in an event where there was trance channeling taking place. It was for healing, and it was for some people get specific information pertaining just to them, like their past lives or their past experiences or their what do you call it? Your guides, your spirit guides, and different things. And they will, I guess, use different forms of channeling, that being one of them too, to communicate, especially in a group, with those different entities, because there's current information and there's also personal information. So you could have current information, like meaning, you know, something's going to happen in this area. You know, somebody gets that feeling or that download or whatever from something, that could be, but also personal, you know, something healing, very personal, that's going to affect you. So if you're weighing the option of the danger of channeling versus not healing, I'll take the danger because you want to heal. You know, you want to move forward. So I could see overdoing it affecting your DNA just like anything. You know, if you took mushrooms every single day, you know, ate a half an
I
ounce of
do.
them, you know, but you don't eat them in quantity like that. You know, if you just ate nothing but mushrooms all day long, you know, you do some detrimental damage to your body. Not to mention, I don't imagine what your digestive system would do with them, um, but yeah, that's I mean that's my 2 cents on it.
I think that all of the don't do this because of anger, fear scenario is just service to self wanderings, personally, because everything is infinite. But I mean, like,
Hmm.
there are some things that people genuinely believe, like arsenic or, lead, you know, that are genuinely bad for you. But you have to look at multiple sources, I find, to find
Hmm.
what's the real thing. There's lots of sources that say lead is poisonous, but I have never heard of anyone other than this possible source from Ed say anything about channeling affecting your DNA. Um, but I know that you can affect your own epigenetic activation based on what you believe. And I mean, so yeah,
Right. Oh, I
if
was just gonna say the fear factor, the fear
yeah,
thing, and then you're putting it out there that you're fearful, and then you got the thought in your head where it's gonna affect my body. So I can see that, yeah.
yeah,
And but if you go into it with an open mind and um, heart, I just know I guess I look at what Carla and that, Carla was attacked, but that was an attack on her.
Power on. Bluetooth.
So,
mm-hmm.
it's hard to say. I guess it's, what you want to do, and I don't know. I would find it really, I'd have to really investigate it, and uh, I guess you would have to look past what happened to Carla. I don't know. They did a lot of rituals and they did a lot of self-protection and all that. So I
Well,
don't know.
what happened to Carla? That was pre-incarnative choice. Apparently,
Oh,
she was
okay.
like that in previous incarnations too.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if you went into it with a thought that nothing's going to happen, everything's going to be good,
All is
you're
well and all will be well.
all is well and all's will be well, and you're not putting it out there that, this is going to happen to me, that's going to happen to me. That's like saying it's going to happen to you. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But that
Okay,
manifestation.
honestly,
so
though, Andre, that would change your DNA if you were changing your outlook and your energy and shifting your perception on things.
Yeah.
That would be technically changing your DNA. So
Yeah.
that actually is true.
Yes, but that would be
Mm.
you changing it, not, you know.
Yeah. Oh
Right,
yeah.
not
But
the
but that happens all the time with any interaction, and so you just.
Hmm.
But it does emphasize the point of doing proper challenging, because you don't want to be channeling a
right,
negative entity or even a neutral entity.
right.
You want to be only channeling positive entities, and
Positive, the highest and greatest.
so you always have to be like, do you come from the one infinite creator? Are you about service to others, love and light? You know.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right.
okay, so I got points. If little Fred's gonna let me speak the way. Yeah. Okay, right. So one.
No, we're just
Yeah.
messing with you.
Sorry. The Shine thing. Yeah, she basically said that channeling can be bad because it can affect the DNA or whatever. And she talks about downloads. Yeah, like Fred said. And that's another thing that the Arcturans talk about. And I don't know whether I've said this before, but the Arcturans say that everyone they're trying to send us all downloads. Yeah, but we have to kind of pay attention to when they send them to us. Yeah, so has anyone ever had, like a ringing sound in their ear? Just randomly out of nowhere. Yeah? When you hear that ringing sound, turn your head towards the ringing sound. Yeah? Right? And it will start to, like, disappear. Yeah, now apparently the Arcturians said that this is them sending downloads. Yeah, and people who are open spiritually to hear them, yeah, will hear this ringing in their ears. And by moving yourself towards the signal, it's like you saying, yes, I want to receive this download.
So I
if
have
you
a, I
hear-
have a,
next time
I have the ringing, but this one rings. It's a more of a, certain times all of a sudden it's very clear and it's a ding 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 ding. It's like a two rocks underwater, and then I'll hear it, and then it'll go away. But I always have a ringing, and I've had that for like 10 years.
It's called
Well,
tinnitus.
not
I have
sure
it
whether-
too.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not saying it's tinnitus. Yeah,
No.
It's not tinnitus. I mean, like normal
Yeah.
hearing. You don't have anything.
Right.
Out of nowhere, you'll hear like a, and you turn your head
Yeah.
towards it, and it'll go,
Yeah.
and then it'll
Mine
fade
will
away.
come in like a ping. It'll go bing, and then it'll go softer and softer and
But
softer, and then it'll
this
go
is
away.
different. This is different on top of the ring, the whatever. This is different, and it only happens in the left ear, and it's like a, it'll just happen, and it'll go click 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 click, and I'll turn my head, and it's like, what the hell, you know? I'm used to the other one, but not this one. It's just in this ear.
So
I don't know.
that there's many theories on it, but the most common ones I've read is that the left ear is like, oh, that's service to self, and that's like your spirit guides trying to tell you, oh, that's service to self, and the right ear is like, that's service to others, like that's, you know, the right way.
I'm balanced then.
Oh, okay, well there you go.
I got it
So, but
all
it's
over.
what you're thinking at the time. So you got to keep track of what you were thinking of at the time
There you go.
that it started ringing, and be like,
I'll
oh,
have to try that out. Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. You know what? I'll
I
pay
have-
attention to it.
I have noticed that when I'm thinking about something that seems quite important, you know, say I'm writing something or I'm doing whatever, and I'm trying to think about big concepts. Like when I was doing the servitor thing, when I was trying to I was getting it loads, like literally like 3 or 4 times an hour, you know. And it's weird because you say left or right ear, but I'd say it's more of an internal thing. It's more like it doesn't feel like it's in either ear. It's like it's your skull vibrates, and you turn your head towards it. It's like a, it's weird. Anyway, that's just one thing. The Arcturian said about it. She said about it. It's a kind of channeling that I kind of feel I'm okay with because you accept these packets of information and then you unpack them consciously in your life rather than you getting like all these images and weird. You know that you're pulling information in. You might just not know what you've got, if you know what I mean. It is about what you were saying about thinking like well, being well thing, you know, and how you think yourself better. That's I mean, explained about the whole kind of quantum resonance in the microtubules in your cells. Yeah, I've explained about this before. That is now what the current theory of consciousness is in neuroscience.
Right.
Scientific terms. Right now, they believe that consciousness exists as a vibration that passes outwards as a field via microtubules bouncing energy up and down, backwards and forwards. Yeah, this is testable. There's evidence being built up every single day. There's more papers coming out about it. The quantum consciousness theory is the quantum consciousness theory is a very real thing. Yeah, the fact that crystals have this same vibration, that bacteria give off this same vibrations. Anyway, I digress. The point is, if you think something, you concentrate your thought on being healthy or something like that on a certain part of your body, thought itself turns into vibrations. Yeah, those vibrations then can affect DNA. In DNA, yeah, there's 2 systems that in with this, yeah. You've got mechanotransduction, whereby vibration from the outside is passed directly to the DNA, yeah, and you've also got things actually on the DNA that are tiny little mechanical systems that need to be pulled apart by vibration. So thinking things causes vibrations. There are systems inside your DNA that are affected directly by vibrations. So thinking the right thing in the right vibrational, like, sequence, and then concentrating that on a specific area of your body, you will be able to affect and change DNA. Also, great meditation for this. Has anyone ever tried something called a skeleton meditation?
Mm-mm.
It's a chaos magic thing.
Explain.
It's really cool. Basically, you imagine all of the skin and all of your organs and everything just melting off your body. Everything melts. So you're just a skeleton left. Yeah, and then you take your time to rebuild the body you want to have. Yeah?
Oh, that's good.
The body that you have. So when you come out of the meditation, you've corrected any mistakes. You've rebuilt your body from scratch to be a completely new, beautiful, living thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
That reminds me of like kind of another meditation of where you imagine yourself as a being of light, and then you just remake yourself in a healthy way.
Mm.
I read another one. I did another one earlier on, actually. I did it in the bath today, and it's basically you turn yourself. You concentrate on the atoms, and you imagine the atoms being a huge mist. There's a huge space in between the atoms, right? So you just imagine yourself as a different density, I suppose. It's like a cloud, right? And then you kind of clear out negative energies from in between these atoms and your gaseous self. I kind of thought like, I feel a bit like what Ra must have felt like.
So Ed, let me ask you this. If during your skeletal meditation, what if someone decides to put themselves back together as a different gender?
Then, you probably like have some weird hormonal shit happen.
Yeah, probably.
You could pitch a meditation like that and record them and pitch it to the trans community and include them. They would feel included.
I'm the right guy for that, dude.
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's try to get back on topic here if we can. Okay, in the same ballpark, what defines trance channeling is the virtually complete absence of the instrument's own mind. Their body thus becomes something of a mechanical speaker or radio for the source to transmit through. What might we do to reduce the participation of the mind of the instrument in conscious channeling and go deeper?
I am Chloe. We pause. Doorbell ring.
Yeah.
I am Chloe and am again with this instrument. We find that comparing the state of the mind-body-spirit complex during the act of trance channeling to the state of the mind-body-spirit complex during the act of conscious channeling may have some informative benefits, but such a comparison can only be taken so far, for the ways in which these processes work can change significantly or very significantly. And so we would not necessarily say that it should be the goal of the instrument in conscious channeling to attempt to recreate the state of mind or the state of the instrument in trance channeling. However, in order to decrease the instrument's hesitations or assessments or judgments of that which comes through it, and to allow for a more open flow of information, we can suggest that, again, the practice of engaging in creative endeavors outside of the act of channeling, where there is not so much pressure, you might say, to perform or engage in this process in such a specific way, but rather one is allowed to simply express that which is coming through it without judgment and without pressure of being analyzed and perceived by others in such a particular and meaningful way, can help to engage those muscles, you might say, that allow for the instrument to become more open to new information and to become clearer in the act of channeling, in the conscious sense where you are still somewhat conscious and engaged in this process of receiving the information, but you are able to step out of the way in ways that uniquely hinder the process as well. At this time, you would take leave of this instrument and transfer the contact to one known as Gary. We are cool.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we got through another little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Did we want to keep reading,
Okay,
or
that you should creative stuff,
Hmm.
and then you'll be all right to channel.
yeah,
I think go ahead.
I was just thinking maybe it continues.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah. Because it was kind of they were just transferring. Okay.
Okay.
I was just gonna that reminds me of something really ages ago. Yeah, that I read it, like I learned ages ago. So the idea of like charging the body with chi in like lots of martial arts traditions, they say that the best way to fill your body up with chi is to do something creative, is to paint a picture, is to do a Zen garden, or to meditate, to create something beautiful, fills your body with the energy that you need. So if he's saying that, there's essentially to just do things that, create and
Well, then you raise your vibration when you create
this is
it.
it, like that.
Right.
That's it. The
Your
act of
whole.
vibration might be, you need to fill yourself up to the point that you can let go. I mean, I don't just guess it just reminded me of something else. Anyway, sorry guys.
You also have to have people around you that aren't, nitpicky and analyzing everything you do. You have to feel comfortable too, at peace. You have to be relaxed, at peace.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. That I since I've been meditating after number one, starting to do artwork again and taking an art class and forcing myself to do artwork and perceptive artwork too, not just regular artwork. I mean, we're doing like auric art and everything where, you channel each other's energy and draw a picture based on that.
Bluetooth.
And then also making sure, that I have the people around me. If they see my artwork out, I don't have to explain it to them. They say, I tell them, I'm going to do a group meditation now. I can't talk right now or hang out. I have a Law 1 meeting tonight. I can't hang out. Anybody that's around me, it's like, oh, okay, no problem. If you aren't attuned to that, you're not going to be around me very long. So you're both exactly right. There's like a formula, and you think of it from an alien outside perspective. That's almost like a spell. Like you're doing this little thing, and you're doing that little thing, and you're doing this. It's like you're setting up a spell, just like they did when they were channeling, just like you do for anything. But from a different perspective, that would be like a recipe. It's a recipe for you want success in this area. You're going to have to meditate. You're going to have to do certain things. You're going to have the top 5 people you're around are going to have to be the same kind of energy you have, because you're that transfers. It's all important. Yeah.
Yes. You can't have people, naysayers and negative people around. And I mean, there's always going to be somebody naysaying, you just have to expect it's just what it is. People do that.
But when
so
you're not
you just
immersed in it, you can reflect. It can just bounces off of you. You laugh at it, really.
Right.
When you're immersed in people that accept you and love you, and that you accept and love, and somebody comes around and laughs at you, you can laugh at them. Really,
just
inside. Because they're wrong, and it's okay. They're allowed to be wrong. That's their choice to be wrong.
You don't just try not to let it bother you.
Yeah.
Shack. Sorry, say it again. Another reason that I live in a shack.
Hey, no bills. No bills. I like it.
But I don't know
What
about
do
you
we do?
guys, yeah. I mean, I've kind of always been made some kind of creative things. I've always either like made like pictured or drawn. You know, I sing and I
Mm-hmm.
make music. I still creating and making art is like a fundamental being human.
Mhm.
You know, um, and I don't know, but I think
Yeah.
it means even more on the spirit. If that makes sense. Like we are creators, right?
Right.
You know, I've had that urge my whole life. It kind of feels like it's how it's supposed to be, right? Anyway,
Mhm.
I apologize.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we
Oh,
starting from?
here. This is a new topic here. Oh, okay.
I
I'll
like
I'll I'll,
that.
I'll
I
read the
like it.
question. Or Benny, you want to read the question? Benny? Oh, Benny froze. Okay, I guess I'll read the question.
Benny Reed, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Cool. This instrument has indicated a desire to expand his capabilities and practice by receiving queries that he might feel are beyond his conscious capabilities to answer outside of channeling. So I have a few that might challenge him in this way. First one I can start with. Raw said, the hallmark of time-space is the inequity between time and space. In your space-time, the spatial orientation of material causes a tangible framework for illusion. In time-space, the inequity is upon the shoulders of the property known to you as time. This property renders entities and experiences intangible in a relative sense. So my question is, in space-time, we conceive of our reality as having three spatial dimensions, at least that we are consciously aware of. And we can conceive of these as being, for instance, the x, y, z axes. Is there a way that we can conceive of time-space in similar terms? For instance, are there three dimensions of time-space like there are that we see in space-time? And if so, what are they? And, just generally, how might we conceive of this inequity of time within time-space?
What a fucking great question!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. We are those of Quo, and we appreciate this inquiry about, as you had referenced, the inequities between these, or rather the inverse system, which allows movement and growth and beingness in a manifested and unmanifested sense through the densities. It gives the selves participating within the constructs of space and time and environment a house within which to explore the dance of creation. You are intimately familiar with the realm of space-time, as thanks to the veil of forgetting, it seems the only mode of experience generally available to you, to your peoples, particularly from the scientific perspective, which has built its worldview upon study of this half of that yin-yang inverse dynamic and glimpse, but does not fully grasp the implications and beingness of the realm known to you as time-space. As beings of consciousness straddle both worlds, there is as much of you in time space as there is space time, and that former half, so to speak, is a realm of its own landscape or geographically, wherein one may indeed travel through what you would call time and what may appear to you to be a forward and backward in something of a lateral sense, but we have great difficulty in attempting to communicate the properties of this realm, which is intelligible to you due to your vocabulary and concepts being built of a world of spatial dimensions where you are locked into that undirectional
Unidirectional.
arrow. Oh, I'm sorry, unidirectional arrow that is seeming forward movement of this time. There is unique interference between these two realms, which,
Interface.
though not within your what?
Interface. Because you said
Oh, I'm
interference,
sorry.
but it's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta get closer.
I know we're all a little
Unique
tired.
interference between these two realms, which, though not within your present sciences, may somewhat be analyzed. Analyzed? What is that?
Analogized.
Okay, analog. Yeah, there you go. To coordinates which you use in the sense of the GPS and the map which pinpoints locations. We find difficulties as things such as location may be something of a misnomer which applied to the time-space realm for location and the spatial sense and such more limited in the realm of time-space. But through the movement of consciousness, there can be a transverse of time within the realm of time-space as it is known to you. It is difficult to imagine such movement. Oh,
Oh.
I can't. Okay,
Oh,
this is not as simple as, okay. It is difficult to imagine such movement. It is not as simple as imagining traveling forward in time from place of space-time or traveling backward in time from standpoint of space-time, but that one can move in the sense of moving through the realm of time-space is possible. One can, from the standpoint of time-space, move in such a way as to witness space-time even from different temporal vantage points. There are properties which may be discovered by the traveler of this realm, which through it lies on the other side of the veil, which you seem to exist only on one side of it. It is nonetheless open to you through certain doors or means of penetrating the veil, particularly through disciplined work in consciousness and the disciplines of the personality. Much may be explored, experienced, and learned in this time space around the we correct this instrument. As we transmit these thoughts, this instrument attempts to bring the focus back to the question of the analogy of 3 dimensions of space upon its own, not taking into account time, which some of your scientists posit is the 4th dimension of space, and we find a difficulty in conceptual understanding and lack of vocabulary to speak to how a similar system may be mapped into time-space to illuminate your thinking. May we ask, is there another query, my brother?
All right.
Oof, wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
So, in time-space, you can move all around into different dimensions. I mean, it's hard for us to wrap our head around because we're just in the XYZ axis, you know. So I guess I don't know, I just have to go with it. I just go, okay, it works for me, you know. I don't know. It's hard for me to get, you know, I mean, it really is, but
So
I guess if you can, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be really cool. I'd like it.
I mean, when I heard that, I'm going back to my days back in school, and basically you let go of 3D. You go, to 4 or 5D. I prefer 5D. I mean, it's better there. And then, this illusion, and it's a lot to really cover on, but you just let go and you just follow your true, the spirit in yourself. So, and you just go where you go. But I mean, there's times illusions. Like, I wish I could read over this stuff and tell you everything I thought when I read it, but you know, it's basically just talking about being stuck here behind the veil and not knowing what's going on, basically, unless if you follow certain steps. So, and that's all I can tell y'all.
Oh, yeah. So, well, for me, what stood out most is this navigating time space bit. For me, it sounds just like remote viewing. You could just like time space remote view
Yeah.
location and time, or like an event or different way things could happen and things like that. And that's how you travel in time space. I think that's how it is. And then so potential and you can discover that, just by, practicing your remote viewing about going forward and backwards in time. I do it a lot, because
Is
I'm
that
really interested in
is that the
timelines.
same? Is that the same as like the astral travel, or like
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean
Well, it's a little
one
different.
night. Oh, it is a little different.
Astral travel is generally if you do it while you're sleeping and then you come out of your
Yeah.
body in spirit. Whereas remote viewing, you can do it while you're conscious and awake.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's all the same thing. You are projecting your astral self out of the body to remote view a different place. How it's used comes
That
down to specific.
yeah.
You could argue use the mental body for remote viewing as well, rather than the astral body. Whereas you could remote view, in theory, astral planes. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
depends where you focus. But astral projection is where you project the astral self to one of the realms built out in the greater
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, the kind of the astral planes built out all of the combined thoughts. Whereas remote viewing can be done while sleeping as well. It doesn't just have you can astral project and then remote view with your astral body on Earth, as it were. But essentially, it's when you view things that are happening on Earth. Yeah, so you could go to a specific place and see the things that are happening using your consciousness. That
Yep.
would be remote viewing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add also that basically all remote viewing happens in time space. It's not happening in space time. And so, like, you may see in your mind's eye something happening, but then when you go check it out in space time, that didn't actually happen because you were viewing a different timeline.
Right, because that's happened to me a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
if you
it wasn't.
actually
Yeah.
what's happening in this timeline, that's kind of the skill. That's where the psychic spies were headed. That is.
Oh yeah, trying to
that
see it in
their
this
consciousness.
timeline. Yeah, or as close
They
to
want
it as possible. Yeah.
Mm.
From there to here and it be here. I have to say though, from Quo's description there, I've definitely spent time in time.
Power off.
Mm-hmm. Oh, something's powered off.
My speaker's shit.
Oh, well, you actually sound better
Power
now.
on. Bluetooth paired.
Yeah.
Turn it off then.
All right. Maybe.
Turn it off.
But yeah, should we go to the next one?
Sure.
Okay.
Everything's on.
All right. So I'll read the question. Yes, thank you. I'll go with one that is a topic that the instrument is familiar with, but I feel that it's an angle that is probably not contemplated before, and so it will have some novel elements to it. When one looks at the history of ufology and studies the reports of UFOs, particularly older reports, such as from the time before the invention of the atom bomb, the appearance of flying objects in the sky often differ from our current sort of sci-fi-like technology and visual representation of UFOs. They took other various forms, like something literally sailing ships in the sky, or just things that didn't look like flying saucers or spaceships. Can you explain why this shift has happened and why we see more technologically based flying objects in the sky versus what was previously perceived and accounted for in folklore or historical religious accounts, and how is this sort of shift related to our spiritual progress as a society?
We are those of Quo and have received your query, my brother. We would start by assuring you that our preference for craft is not so changing as is the seasons of your fashions upon the world. For we do certainly evolve, as do our negative brothers and sisters, upon a constant deepening of our awareness of the Creator and our refinement of our ability to manipulate consciousness for the purpose of service to others, whether that is an outer technology or an inner technology. As we learn to use light, as we ourselves become that light, we do evolve, we do change, but in our interaction with your peoples, the form that the craft takes is not so much indicative of evolving technologies on our end, but rather how we calibrate our service in a way in which may, for those of us of the positive polarity, more non-invasively interfere interface with those of your world in a way which also may catalyze and inspire the seeking and the sense of a great mystery of the beyond, of that which is not of this world, but which is within some bounds of understanding. There are many ways we could attempt to appear to you or in your skies in the historical journey of your world, which could not even be computed on an intellectual level, for there would be no frame of reference, no means even to
Conceptualize.
conceptualize what it is that is being seen. So we must appear in some forms that are familiar to you as nature itself, or which are unfamiliar but still recognizable to some degree, that they invite the contemplation and the seeking, that they may excite the senses and awaken entities from the slumber of habit and circular thinking, such that the attention peeks through the curtain and then finds its heart asking questions.
Oh.
We would ask if you could. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could continue since it's the same query. Or, I don't know, you guys want to reflect on what we've read so far? I guess there's quite a bit,
they're just saying that, yeah, they're just saying that if we came in something that you weren't aware of, that, you know, it was really completely out of our, you know, frame, that we wouldn't recognize it or we wouldn't ask questions. They're giving us some reference to go by because, you know, like, look at way back when people didn't understand what it was they were seeing. So it was, you know, they took a gander. I don't know. I guess, and they have to just give us a little hint, so our little minds can understand a little bit or seek out, you know, give a little mystery to it, and then we'll look further. Well, these people are inquisitive. Let's give them a little something.
Yeah, so basically they had to present as something people were already familiar with.
Right. But it does seem like it is changing a little bit, you know, from back in the way back when till now, and now we got a little bit different, you know, tad different.
Yeah, well, I
think maybe as technology gets better, maybe they can put out a little bit more of their technology. You know, our technology gets better, theirs is better, of course, but, you know, trying to.
I think also in modern day we're familiar with more different shapes, and so we are able to see a truer image of what it's like.
See, right. I don't know. I think that personally, they're still drip feeding stuff to us, and what we think a spaceship looks like is like at all what any of the spaceships look like.
Well, the Nazis had spaceships, like the Hanebu.
It's kind of like what we can perceive.
Do you have a picture?
Rather than.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll post it in a bit. I'll just wanted to finish posting this. Here, Hanebu.
Always, dude. Love you.
Nazis, UFOs. There you go. See? It's because they got a spinning disc. There's, in order for anti-gravitic technology, is based on 2 spinning discs. Tech or whatever.
So time travel and interdimensional travel, also based on 2 spinning discs. The beauty of 2 spinning discs is you can get a spinning disc far closer to the speed of light than you can move something through space at the speed of light. So,
are the discs going in
opposite directions? The discs are going in opposite directions.
Where you can't in a movement. So it's a way of kind of cheating to get to the speed of light, really. It's a very good idea.
Well, yeah, I don't think this is an accurate representation, but basically, no, this guy didn't really figure it out. He thinks it's a jet. No, this guy is really, really wrong. No.
Do the discs, are there two, and do they go in different directions?
Yes, exactly.
Or
Yeah. So
and they have do they have magnets and all that? And
so what they did is they actually had mercury.
no.
Uh,
Oh.
so a mercury pool with
Mhm.
iron filings in it, iron oxide,
Oh.
and then they used an electromagnetic field in order to get it to spin. So they spun it with an electromagnetic field, and so they would have them spinning in two opposite directions, and they were very heavy. And so you know how when you have one spinning disc, there's a lot of unusual behaviors that come out, But when you have two spinning discs next to each other, apparently you can basically have anti-gravity and things like that. Well, it's called electrogravitics, so it has something to do with the electrical field spinning in those opposite directions and things like that. All right.
The way that that do you remember the book that I said about ages ago? It was written about the Atlantis, and it was like some 19-year-old kid that hardly finished school. He's trying to find it. Oh no. And he described how they had. He basically wrote this book out of nowhere, and he said he channeled it all from some high king from Atlantis. And the technology he described for anti-gravity was like a ball that he said put out like a repulsion field. Yeah, that essentially meant that put out like an opposite force to gravity. And then it just went up to one spot, and it would stay there, and then the Earth would spin underneath it.
Oh.
Yeah, and then when it down again, it would like lower the field, and then the anti-gravity down again. The world had just spun underneath it at whatever speed the world spins at, and then so you could get from the one place in the world to the other just by going up, letting the world spin underneath you, coming back down where you needed to. And then to go up and down the world, you had to kind of set specific vectors to go up at like a specific angle to go up, or a specific angle to go down. But yeah, again, it's a really cool idea, anti-gravity, and he described it really quite well. It was like a harmonics thing, like a vibrational thing. That he described that, like there's a harmonic vibration that balanced the Earth's gravitational force. If I remember rightly. I need to. It was a really cool book anyway. It's really hard written. Like the story is really hard to follow. Like the Atlantean guy, but very very cool book.
What's the name of the book?
I think it's called Tale of Two or something like that.
Tale of what? Tale of Two Cities?
I need to find it.
A Tale of Two Cities?
No, that's Shakespeare. It's two worlds or two times. Right. I'll have to jump up this if I need to find it because I can't do it on my phone.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we can continue reading. All right.
You guys carry on reading. Oh,
Okay.
you still hear me?
Yeah. Thank you for what you've shared. I guess the latter half is still relevant in that I was wondering with this shift and how you appear, or at least how we perceive you as a culture upon this planet, how that change or what the change indicates about us on a spiritual level. I guess the intention behind my question is kind of how can we utilize these forms that you appear in as a reflection of ourselves? How can we conceive of them and reflect on them for our spiritual growth?
We are those of Quo, and we have understood this query, my brother. If one seeker wishes to take into contemplation the evolving nature of these shapes, which we would remind those receiving our words that many such shapes are not those of the Confederation, but are of other terrestrial and non-terrestrial sources, as we prefer the least invasive route possible and often seek to operate through other means such as channeling or the dreams, the seeker may fruitfully consider, just as they would with any marker of change, what it reflects back about the nature of the individual and the collective consciousness. Though does this channeling craft or changing craft indicate a greater openness or a greater closedness to the phenomenon? Do these craft indicate an increase in the sophistication of the thinking of your peoples? We would, as in the case of the dream, ask the subject that comes up for them. What are the feeling tones? What thoughts arise as they contemplate the role and appearance and impact of these things which seem to appear in your world? What opportunities for a service do such phenomena open? What what implications does it have for the
Societal. Mm-hmm.
societal worldview, neurosciences, philosophies, religions alike? What might be learned or understood in some aspects of how and to whom and to where such things manifest, just as the natural world around you. So too, this is the world beyond the second.
And
I
third.
can't.
Oh,
And
sorry.
third density. No, that's okay. Or beyond your space time, offering always reflections and clues and messages about the nature of reality, about its boundaries and what lies beyond. The appearance of such phenomenon are not accidental and are even more conscious and more intentional. That is the second density being who may cross your path at the right moment. This is true for both those who would enslave and control and those who would seek to empower with love, non-judgment, and acceptance. May we ask if there's another query? We are those of Quo.
All right. Cool. So, what'd you guys think of that one?
Well,
So they basically said that, well, not all crafts are ours, and we usually
right.
try to communicate with people in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you should reflect upon what the phenomenon says about your culture. Like, for instance, like last time when they were shooting at what they thought were extraterrestrials. You know, that really says more about humanity than it says about anyone else.
Right. Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's kill them before we even get a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, basically. Shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
Well, that proves right there that it's no wonder we get the limited interaction that we do, because they know from experience that our first reaction to something that we don't understand is to shoot shit at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like the Greenlanders. The Greenlanders, they came to Greenland, and there were the Inuit who were already living there, and the Greenlanders were they just tried to kill them. They just tried to poke them with their swords, right? They didn't even try to communicate with them or form a negotiation or land sharing or teach me your ways. And the Greenlanders ended up dying out because they starved to death. Well,
Right.
you know. So.
Well, I mean, isn't that kind of going back to what's ingrained in our DNA when our planetary consciousness has risen up from second density to third density with constantly having to defend ourselves and survive. So
yeah, no,
that's really, really hard to change that DNA.
Right, that's why you have to look. Well, isn't that like shadow work and breaking that false beliefs,
right?
And
but it's
and
also
get moving
generational.
forward. Yeah, it's fear factor. They have programmed us to be fearful of almost everything, every move we make. You know, it's like it's crazy stuff. I was thinking about that today about, oh my gosh, they put so much fear in you for everything, laws and I mean, just everything, everything. If you do this, you're gonna get that. If you do this, you're gonna get that. So what the hell? What are you gonna do? Now you go. And now I've been going, well, I'm just not gonna worry about it so much at all. Just move forward and then, whatever happens, it's yeah. Because that worry, that stress and worry, and it also makes your body weak, all that worry and stress and stuff and fear. It just messes with you. Hmm.
Yeah, this is a nice image. It's got some
Oh
flying
yeah.
crafts and
It
looking up.
is a
It's like,
nice,
yeah,
yeah.
you don't have a bunch of people shooting at them. That's what would happen in America, though.
That's probably right.
It's the Chinese. They're from China. China, or however you say it in American.
Is it what?
Maybe you should just come around.
Oh no.
You should just come down, come for a bit.
Hold on.
Come and say hello. Come and have like a big bonfire or something. Get a bit pissed, have a laugh. Just make it fun. Introduce me in a fun way.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's true.
We need like an alien celebrity, to break down the barriers.
We do. What was
Yeah.
his name?
Elvis. Yeah, Elvis.
What's the blonde Pleiadian? That came with
The Raelian?
the Pleiadian that
Definitely
came.
Elvis.
He's the blonde Pleiadian. What the heck is his name? Asher Sharon or I can't remember. He's pretty widely. Everybody knows him. I just can't remember his name. Well, what was that guy that came in the '60s? What was?
Tentacles, mate. Tentacles and a really pretty singing voice.
Isn't it Oshawan?
No, it's
I can ask.
sure. Galactic Federation. Ashtar.
Oh, Ashtar. Well,
Ashtar.
they're of mixed polarity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say they were kind of famous. Has anyone ever seen the film called The Man Who Sold the World? It's got David Bowie in it.
Oh, yes, I did.
It's a great film, right? He's like, it comes down and he just gets all these fucking patents for all of his tech, and then literally just makes it so the humans are so dependent on him for everything that he basically owns a planet, and then these aliens, they just sells us or something, if I remember rightly. It's a great film.
Yeah, that's an old one. Yeah.
It's a good one.
3, 4. I think we. Oh man, I think there's 4 more questions or something. Here. There's another one on UFOs. Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I do have another one along the same lines. I think hopefully does this job of testing the instrument the way that he's hoping to be tested. I appreciate the references, as you just mentioned, to the fact that not all that we describe as UFOs or craft are of the Confederation, and that there is negative influence also attempting to interact with us. In my recent sort of foray into the resurgence of interest in the UFOs among both government and other academic institutions, I've been wondering about the dynamic a lot, and my desire, as I see this growing interest in UFOs from more traditional sources. As an academic institution, I think a lot about the attempts of the Orion Empire to influence us through their appearances. So I'm wondering if you could offer any guidance on how to conceive of this new resurgence of interest in UFOs and how people contemplate them, because I'm noticing that it is challenging our institutions and causing a catalyst of sort of breaking things open, which the Confederation's desire would be to break things open in a positive way, but I imagine the Orion desire would be to break things open in a way that's more chaotic. So is there any advice that you can offer to help guide the more traditional view of UFOs in terms of the academic institutions, and how we as a society can sort of orient ourselves to difference in between positive and negative appearance of UFOs and how we conceive of them?
We are those of Ko and have received and appreciate this far reaching and multifaceted query, which, on our own level, even outside of channeling, challenges us in terms of how best to approach and relate to and serve your people. As your peoples are a highly volatile one, it is quite difficult to predict what mode of service would be most efficacious for us
Efficacious.
and efficacious. That's a good one for us and for you in eliciting a greater awakening to love and to the powers of non-judgmental acceptance. That is the key to working together, that you may as a society participate more directly and consciously in the universe, in your neighborhood, with and among other sources of intelligence, that you may finally breach your isolation. It is difficult for us and made all the more challenging that, as you know, we too have a loyal opposition who, for every act we seek to make, seeks themselves a counteraction, their objectives being to wield and preserve power where it can be exercised by those of the elite, to reduce transparency, to
sow.
sow seeds that confusion that blends with fear and paranoia, such as power used in the dominating sense can be exercised. Those of our negative brethren have quite a fertile field within which to exercise the machinations in this regard, as your governmental powers, corporate and military authorities have worked to keep such understandings undisclosed to your peoples, creating an ambience of misinformation, disinformation, and true information that become very difficult for your discerning minds to navigate through and to know into which category or categories any particular piece of data may fall. It is a fraught, fraught
Fraught.
Front,
landscape,
front,
fraught,
front. Yeah.
fraught landscape for both, or rather all parties, those of your world and those of higher densities, both positive and negative. That which the positive polarity seeks to break, to use your term, is that which keeps the self enslaved to concepts and limited ideas about who and what the individual self is, and who and what the social self is. If
Societal.
those of, oh, I'm sorry, societal self is, if those of the positive polarity are to break, it is in service to healing. It
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
break those shackles clasped tightly around the wrist or the ankles or the blinders which the self has placed over the self's eyes. Breaking is not sought to sow chaos or create greater harm or disintegration such that your peoples lose the capacity for coherency or coherent collective action, nor at the same time we do necessarily
Necessarily.
necessarily seek to treat your world as fragile. We seek the least interference possible with those of your people, that we may safeguard the free will of all involved, that we may not artificially, so to speak, influence the evolution of your peoples and the choices that your peoples can make. We attempt to operate only within the bounds of the sanction offered by the request for service, which may be articulated by a need, by an awareness, by the broadening of understanding that opens the door for our operation. We have no, so to speak, engineering designs, social or otherwise. We have only ourselves to offer, our information, our service, our energies.
Yes. Yes.
We have attempted and will continue to attempt offering ourselves in service in this regard. When, if, and how such service is accepted will, of in its own, by the nature of such dynamics, create ripples and have consequences for that which, as is true in any evolutionary sense, even minus higher density beings accept or resist a new reality. Open-mindedness has not always been the hallmark of your peoples or your institutions. Although you grow ever forward in that journey, many are also the regressive energies very much active and alive upon your world, which would move into the other directions, closing down and building the walls higher. May we ask if we have answered this query, or is there more with which you would like to explore for a final query? We are those of Quo.
All right, Bene?
Well, I'm thinking about, one quote in my Torah. It would be considered the book of Job, but it's called something totally else. I don't know if you want to look it up or whatever, but it says that can you tie cords to the Pleiadians or undo the reins of Orion? Like, I mean, I know Orion well. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, Orion was my best friend, but at the same time, they will do you dirty, even if you're doing the best for them, just to make themselves look better. It
Service to
Yeah.
self.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
Job 38:31. God speaks to Job and asks, "Canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion?" Part of a larger passage
Jews.
where God is questioning Job, illustrating the vast difference between divine and human understanding of power. The verse constellations Pleiades and Orion as metaphors for the wonders of the natural world. But yeah, I think that we understand this as the Pleiades are the service to others, and the Orion are the service to self.
Yes, and they'll screw you any second they get because it doesn't matter how good you do for them. All that matters is how they shine. And like, have you ever seen the show, the movie Beetlejuice? Well, there's a star named Beetlejuice. Say it three times.
Right,
Like,
right, right, right.
so
Yeah.
it's this
It's
freaking
part of the
retarded.
Orion constellation.
Yeah, and they're not really even reptilians. They're more like
Well, the Alpha
almost,
Draconians are reptilian, but
yeah, they are, but
there's a variety.
they come from Thuban. They come from Alpha and Draconians. They got their own thing that we came here fucking from a different dimension. We felt whatever, blah blah blah.
Power off.
But you know, not all of them are bad.
Power on.
No, there's
So
some that are trying to correct the wrong or what they feel that they did, or I don't know if it's just a reptilian or
they're not
I don't know.
reptilians. Reptilians were created after them, and then grays
Oh,
were created after that. Like grays are actually the avatar, like, and that's all
mhm.
I'll tell you. Like
Right.
they're almost a chloroform being. Like, I mean, they're almost plants. That's how they blend into everything and do what they want to do. But that's all I'm
Mhm.
gonna say. You guys go on. I'm enjoying this whole show. So,
Right.
That whole kind of reptilian thing, yeah? I read this weekly thing the other day, like a while ago. Yeah, I can't remember which book it was in. It was I can't remember. I'll find out. But basically, they said, yeah, that the first attempts of life on Earth went horribly wrong, and that led to the dinosaurs, and that the evolutionary stages that led from the dinosaurs led to the first draconian reptilian race, but
on
they took
Earth,
them away
right?
from Earth. Yeah, they evolved here, but they come from another planet billions of years ago when the dinosaurs got wiped out. Yeah, and so only a few of them stayed here underground, but most of them went off, and then X amount of like hundreds of thousands of years later, they forgot where they come from, so they forgot that they came from Earth, and now they're kind of on this war, waging their way all the way back across, not realizing that this was actually where they were born in the first place, because they forgot where they came from. They think that they came from that place over there, but they don't actually know that they're just trying to sweep their way across the galaxy, owning everything, and that's why it is so important to them, because this is where the dinosaurs were, and that was the root race for them. How cool is that?
Yep.
Cool.
So, that raises an interesting question I just thought of. Um, so, if there's been a previous third density attempt on Earth, wouldn't that mean that other places like Venus and Mars that have already gone through first, second, third, fourth density in some degree be able to recapture a third density startup?
There's service to self, uh, the empire or whatever, often does that. They try to capture a third density startup, but they usually can only do it if there aren't already service to others heavily invested there. Otherwise, it becomes like a situation like Earth, where you got heavily invested service to others and heavily invested service to self, and they're just like you know. But the service to others have already won. We're just kind of waiting for the kind of for this transition here, where the service to self will kind of die off and just the service to others will remain.
That
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's almost it. Like I've told you 100 times before, like there are planet games that we live. This is an integrated polarity game that we're on. So, I mean, I don't even look at life anymore as, I'm just here. I'm just a soggy being walking around or whatever, sappy, whatever you want to call
Water
it.
sack.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. But you know, it's the dark and the light integrating into each other so they can see from, I would say, polar. Like that's what's coming to my mind. Not polarity, but a polar point, like an upper point that goes down almost into a triangle if you think about it, because you got them on each side and it's going through the bottom and then going to the top. How everybody can get along. So, I
Wouldn't that be
mean,
called balanced then? Balanced? I
yeah.
mean, yeah, balanced.
Heaven is
Oh.
in balance, I can tell you that much. I and like think of Maldek, like he's talking about Mars and all that. Like, yeah, if we go to Mars and Venus, we'll have to make, something that can change us to the point like whatever Venus is there is made of, whatever, Mars is made of. I know the moon is made of like helium 2 or 3, and and there's barely any oxygen, but there's a lot of water. I mean, us as a being, not that there aren't other beings up there, we can't live there because
Hmm.
this is where we're going, to live life. So from a whole different place, like maybe this whole thing is mercy for us if you really think about it.
We do have a very beautiful planet, and it's hoping we're
Yeah,
gonna clean it up. It's cleaning up.
it
Oh.
is slowly but surely.
Well,
But
that's part of the reason too. I think why they say it takes between 1 and 700 years for the transition to fully take place for third to fourth density.
but aren't we we're going through that already, right? We've gone
Yeah.
Yeah,
through
we're in the
the Earth,
photon belt.
the Earth, right?
Yes. Yes, we're in
Yeah.
the photon
Hey,
belt.
this, speaking of this, guess what ended, like, what's the date? That was like, anyway, the
The
14th of
19th.
January, yeah, the 14th of January was the official end of the Kali Yuga.
And what's that?
Okay, it's basically like
Well,
the Hindu version of kind of like a period of like us all being brainwashed and not knowing anything spiritual, and us all being like finding in the dark, not knowing anything spiritually real, because it's like
Trannies and blow.
it's like yeah, like your Kali, like in incarnation, yeah, like Kali the goddess or whatever, would be one where you are super evil. Yeah, if you
Oh.
worship Kali, yeah, you worship on like skulls
So-
and thrones, like
Yes, yes,
uh,
and
uh,
yes, that's
right?
true.
according
And
And
But I thought
they
she
say
had a
that right
I thought
is
she
the
had a
end of
positive side, or I
the
don't know.
Kali
she does.
Yuga is supposed to end in 427,000 years, according to the Hindu beliefs.
Yep.
What's supposed to end then?
Kali.
Kali Yuga.
It's
Four-
supposed
And
to
then
go slow in the beginning of the age. How fucking off's that? Honestly, I was reading something about it the other day. It's like literally right now it's ended. It's like right at the fucking end. It's like
yeah, I don't know. I don't know where you read that because it's like 400,000 years.
Kali Yuga. It'd be 400,000 years or more of Kali Yuga. Then like, what the fuck? Then
it's a
None of it,
useless for our lifetime understanding. A dweller on two planets or the dividing of the way. This is the book
anyway, yeah,
that Ed found.
that's a book about the
Oh.
kid wrote.
Oh, I
He was like fucking. He was like 18. He like never really did much reading. He knew nothing about school and that. And he was like some farm kid that just used to like walk around in the field. He just sat in his bedroom and just bashed out this book in like a fucking month or some shit. It's
Was it a channeling?
incredible.
Karma disposes.
Yeah, it's fully channeled.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Some guy that died, like the king of Atlantis or something,
Mm.
and like he then like channeled his life story to this kid who wrote it down. And I'm sorry, the imagination of this kid must have been mind blowing if he come up with that shit, because it's fucking cool.
Mhm.
That's cool.
oh, I love you guys.
Did we want to do another one today?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kuo. This one also not necessarily totally outside the purview of the instrument, but I do think is an angle that might be challenging. You may begin to see your relationship to the logos or sun, which you are most intimately associated. This is not the relationship of parent to child, but of creator, that is logos to creator, that is the mind body spirit complex as logos. It seems easy to consider the sun as being something akin to a parent for us, particularly with the view that it is basically the architect of our archetypical mind and thus much of our reality. But it is also seems too that Ra is impressing the importance of more co-equal relationship for us with the sun, as though we can offer something to it as it offers something to us. Is this accurate? And if so, can you expand on that relationship and what it is that we can offer to the sun that is the sublogos?
We are those of the principle of quo, and we thank you, as with the other queries, for this well-fashioned question which examines not just that which transpires on your world, but across your galaxy and all galaxies, as this is the procreative. Oh, it's gone.
Iterative.
I can't see.
Oh, weird. I can try opening. Is that better?
No.
No. Okay, well, I guess I'll read it. Iterative and even in some ways fractal nature of the outbeating heart of the primal logos, which manifests itself in the step-down frequencies of logos awareness, known as the sublogoi and the sub-sublogoi, and so on infinitely as you understand it. Those of the third density population are sub-sublogoi of your sublogos, which you call the sun. We would ask that the seeker not to get too tripped up, you might say, on this system of subs and sub-subs, but reference it only as a helpful means to understand the procreative nature of the creator, whereby logos manifests itself as a sublogos to it in a hierarchy of growth, but not that which remains forever, that of the planet to a child, as you were asking about. It begins that way as the logos provides the foundation of consciousness, the environment within which this third density consciousness shall evolve, the foundation of the biological second density life, which will chemically house the third density consciousnesses, and some of the other important parameters that set the stage for the exercise of the sub logos' free will, that it, like the genetic
Yeah.
instructions of the seeds planted in the ground, will, according to its own configurations. Did you want to comment on that, Benny?
No, 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 no. It's
Okay.
just right. It's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Like the genetic instructions of the seed planted in the ground will, according to its own configurations, determine how to make use of the soil and the available nutrients, sunlight, water, and so forth of the third density environment within which it grows. Each of your third density beings is planted in such a soil that is a social climate and a geographical climate, a temporal climate, and the circumstances of their birth and their life are the conditions that they, as they become conscious beings, may use to chart their own journey of self-understanding and of eventually making the choice of service to others or service to self. Part of those conditions which the third density entity uses, the most important part, is the catalyst, that which gives the third density entity an opportunity to react, to respond, to change, to move upward before the third density entity has begun to form a bias in its consciousness and set its chosen course. The catalyst begins as what you would call random. That is, it is not shaped to a conscious entity's free will, but rather is a swirl of shifting potentials that meet and greet the self-catalyst, still just not yet fully invited or crafted by the individual consciousness, but that which the hope is the entity will be caused to react to and begin to form bias. Are for instance, unpredictable weather patterns something that should cause me to steal the resources of my neighbors and hoard it for myself, that I might survive these conditions? Or, alternatively, are these same environmental patterns of weather and climate that which fosters in me the need to communicate to my neighbors, that we may collectively share in our fate and work together and so forth? Through such reactions to what began as random catalysts, there are formed biases. In this simple example, in your earlier versions of the third density, though such remains true in all portions for this example. As the self proceeds further in their bias and becomes more a conscious being, and thus more of a conscious exerciser of their will and faith, then Catalyst more and more intelligently responds to this exercise of free will, such that it seems to happen to you what seems to happen around you or in your life is magnetically attracted to the exercise of this free will, which still remains true even when the exercise of free will is uninformed, confused, unconscious, and even fragmented. Thus, often what the confusion as to why such phenomenon visit one in a particular life, the self is not understanding the various layers of free will at play, including and especially pre-incarnational and subconscious operation of free will, or the self may be attracting or operating in such a way as to create painful conditions that serve as signal to the conscious mind of the work that needs done, and the greater integration of the will being sought. As the self develops, becomes more conscious, and exercises free will, then it is less and less the logos which offers the catalyst, but it is the self which generates the catalyst for the self upon the base of the catalyst of the senior logos, shall we say, and as the entity develops, the higher centers and moves more and more upward into the gateway energy center, the entity can become that which you described, the self-realized logoic entity, aware that it is a child of consciousness, that its consciousness is connected to the Creator, that it has immense creative power and the capacity to form and mold and to serve reality, much as the parent Logos does. Such a self who has awakened its logoic identity understands that it is, however its physical vehicle may be bound by the constructs of space and time, not itself so bound. Instead, it recognizes its innate sovereignty, its power to choose and to create whatever may be the outer circumstance of the illusion. Whether such a self indeed is locked into a prison cell in your penal system, or whether such a self is in poverty and or lives in a remote cave with seemingly no social impact, such a self has transcended through their exercise of will and faith, and for the positive entity, the activation and opening of their green ray energy center, they have transcended the container into which they were planted, so to speak, by the senior logos. They may thus offer great catalyst, you might say, though not quite in the sense that the third density experience catalyst to the parent sublogos or the or junior logos, and is the parent, made manifest through its creation, through its formation of this particular solar system, this particular planet, these particular parameters of the experiment. The sub-logos is that agent which has been born within the environment created by the sub-logos, and taken that environmental material as with the seed with the soil and the environmental conditions, and manifested itself as a third density being, and then liberated itself from the confines of being strictly a third density being, such that it too awakens its primal essence, its true nature as a logoic being. Thus much is, in that act, communicated back to the senior logos. A pathway has been made through the environmental material. That material became conscious through the first and second and third density. It became aware of itself and then awoke, no longer dreaming that it was strictly this environment, that it was strictly a human. This is of immense value to the senior logos. Of the sub-logos forms a portion of the learning of the senior logos itself, and that learning is communicated throughout the many other logoi, which acts as cells within a unified body, as each experiment repeats successively, endlessly. As the entity of the third density awakens, so too does the creation, and this is why you hear of the enlightened consciousness enlightening its environment and others about it when coming into contact with it, for it has necessarily uplifting and illuminating quality. The ground which the enlightened consciousness touches is made sacred. It was always sacred, but the illusion did not see it as such. The enlightened consciousness reveals its true nature, which is sacred. We thank the questioner for these questions and for the challenging this instrument in our dance with this entity. At this time, we will transfer contact to the one known as Trisha. Okay. We're those known as cool.
Well, that is a lot.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Yeah. Well, if I would sum it all up, I'm going to just put it right out there that we live in a world of choices, blah, blah, blah. If you look at yourself at logos or up to the sun, picture yourself as a chariot during meditation, going off the sun. And if you want to know about Kali, I mean, that's a demon. So, I mean...
Well, that's a lady that was upset that her child was killed.
Yes, it's a demon.
Well, so yeah, my take on it was that we have biases that form over many lifetimes based on the catalyst that we have and whether it pushes us towards service to self or service to others. Yeah,
yes.
I'm not sure what the senior logos is.
My take on it was more this kind of fractalized sacred geometries of consciousness thing. Really, it's one of the main things that Ra is like, or the whole law of one material does so well. Yeah, every single stage you've got the same patterns, the same cycles from the God, the God, the God pattern, the Creator itself. It has incarnations. Yeah, it has incarnated lives. Yeah, that's what an octave is. You know, it expands out, expands out, then it all comes back in. Yeah, then it has a whole new expand out. That's its next incarnation. You know, like a sun. Yeah, a sun. They reckon that the Earth has to have been made by at least 4 suns. Yeah, so that means that there has to have been 4 different suns to give us the elements that make Earth. Yeah, we would not have uranium. We would not have any of the heavy elements on Earth through 4 supernovas to make those elements. So this is the 4th incarnation of our sun. You know, and we are the 4th, 3rd density. You know, attempt, I suppose, that this sun has made. You know, and then you've got the central sun at the middle of our galaxy. That is, once again, a logos for all of those other suns.
Exactly.
You know, it's the same fractal pattern, yeah, of consciousness expanding out, pulling in, and then exploding out again to do the next experiment. You know? So when you bring that down to us, what are we? Yeah? Now, obviously, in third density, we're this still thing, we're matter finding its own way to realize that we are creator, right? You know, that's kind of the way you describe the whole thing. Go through first, second, third's where you can acknowledge this and become that enlightened, knowing that you are creator. You know, like I said, like the other week, my universe that I made. Yeah, like creator. have that kind of power, yeah, that we aren't this, that we are that, then, you know, this whole thing about kind of like, you know, like, you remember what we were saying earlier about how you think makes you healthy, you know, being enlightened, knowing that you are, knowing that everything else is created, knowing that you are one with it all, how can where you go not be sacred? Yeah, you know everything's creator. You know, so having that enlightened state of mind, how can you not recognize the sacred nature of everything? You know that bit where it said about how, like, the illusion doesn't let you know that it's sacred, but then once you have that enlightened state and you know that you're creator, you know that it's creator, how can everywhere is creator? That's the illusion telling you that puddle over there is illusion, isn't God. As soon as you have that enlightened state, that puddle's sacred. Everything is.
Hey, I gotta go, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go too. But it was really nice meeting with you guys. So leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth therefore rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Adonai.
See you next
So,
week.
Have a good night, guys.
love you all.
Love you all.
Love you guys.
you all.
Bye.